So let's talk about freedom, rights, and responsibilities. Americans enjoy tremendous freedom, guaranteed under the Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution. But those rights aren't absolute, and exercising them properly often requires responsibility and awareness. This is especially true where it pertains to our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. We recently got a unique opportunity to sample Springfield Armory's popular XD9 pistol. We completed the necessary paperwork at OC Guns, our local firearms dealer, and waited 10 days as required by California state law before going back to pick it up. And we realized that a lot of motorcyclists might not be aware of the legal do's and don'ts when transporting a firearm on two wheels. After all, motorcyclists aren't exempt from the law, and ignorance is no excuse. Maybe you've purchased a firearm of your own recently. Maybe it's for self-defense. Maybe it's to enjoy shooting sports like target practice. Whatever the reason, it's your reason. But being a responsible gun owner means knowing the proper way to lawfully transport your firearm when you're not using it. Many states regulate a person's right to transport a firearm, as well as the right to possess or carry it. That usually means rendering the firearm inoperable or inaccessible during transport. In a car, this is easy. You simply lock the firearm in a container and keep it outside the driving compartment. And it's even easier in states that are classified as unrestricted, meaning that a person in good legal standing can conceal or open carry a firearm during transport. For most of the United States, however, concealed carry and open carry are subject to restriction either by the state as a whole or even from city to city or from county to county. Persons in good legal standing are not preempted from legally transporting a firearm as long as certain regulations are followed. The following guidelines are intended to help you avoid any potential legal difficulties in the event that you're stopped or otherwise detained by law enforcement. Let's keep it real. These scenarios assume that the firearm owner is in good legal standing to transport a firearm for lawful purposes in the first place. But that person does not necessarily possess a concealed carry permit for his or her state or county. The good news is that even motorcyclists are legally allowed to carry a firearm under federal law. United States Code Title 18, Section 926A, the Interstate Transportation of Firearms, or Peaceable Journey Act, allows this to happen. The Peaceable Journey Act is a federal law that is intended to supersede state and local laws. But it's still important to note that some states may not want to honor this, and you need to know what to do in the event that you are pulled over by a law enforcement officer while transporting your firearm lawfully. It's always a good idea to carry a copy of this law with you at all times. But it's even smarter to know exactly how to transport your firearm legally and for lawful purposes. Most states require that the transported firearm be unloaded, stored in a locked container, and kept out of immediate reach. For motorcyclists, that means transporting the firearm in a locked container and in a locked saddlebag whenever possible. But what if you don't have a lockable saddlebag in which to store it? Does that mean you're prohibited from transporting your firearm for lawful purposes? Not necessarily. But it is a good idea to take even more precautions, such as rendering the firearm inoperable via the addition of a trigger lock, or maybe locking a cable or a padlock through the breech, through the barrel, or through the magazine well. At the end of the day, transporting any legal firearm on your motorcycle for lawful purposes, such as when heading to the range, your favorite hunting spot, or your local gunsmith, need not be a source of anxiety. If you do it the right way, it's easy. And you really should have nothing to fear if you encounter local law enforcement. Always remember these key points when you do transport a gun on your motorcycle. The firearm should be unloaded. It should be stored in a locked container. Any ammunition should be stored separately, preferably in a separate locked container. All firearms and ammunition should be stored as far away from easy reach as is practically possible. If you're going to transport a firearm on your motorcycle, here are some things you shouldn't do. 1. Hastily tucking your firearm in your jacket. In addition to showing a lack of common sense, this constitutes concealed carry in most states, and concealed carry usually requires a permit. Don't even consider it if you want to stay out of trouble with the law. 2. Wrapping the firearm in a cloth or towel for transport. Even though the firearm may be technically locked in your saddlebag, it won't meet the general requirement in most states that the firearm be kept in a separate locked container. 3. Failing to lock your separate container. Sure, your saddlebag may be locked, but failing to lock the container could make the firearm too accessible in the eyes of some law enforcement officers. Why take that risk? So you've done everything sensibly and in compliance with the law. You've locked your firearm in a container, you've locked your ammunition in a separate container, and you've stored both out of immediate reach. If the goal here is not to draw attention to yourself, do you really think that aggressive or reckless riding is going to help you achieve that? And one more important point to consider. Several states, even some with unrestricted carry and transport laws, have enacted duty to inform statutes that require any person in possession of a firearm to inform an officer of that fact when they are detained for any reason. We think that's a good idea because the more you can do to put the police officer's mind at ease, the better off you're going to be. Following these simple guidelines may not exempt you from having to answer some questions in the event that you are stopped with a firearm in your possession, but locking it up during transport will reduce your chances of being locked up. For more in-depth information on this subject, check out our feature story on Motorcycle.com. And as always, ride and shoot safely.